The situation is likely different than it appears. We have to be very, very careful here because many people will fall for that same old trick again, the bear trap. Because we're likely seeing that exact same bear trap right here again. Many people are only seeing the sell-off right now and don't understand why this should even be happening. I spoke about this exact scenario yesterday, so I'd say let's jump right into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. Hello and a warm welcome to a new video on my channel. I'm Max. Today, I'm giving you an important update on the current situation in the crypto market. And you really can't afford to miss this update because it's going to be incredibly important, as we're seeing the first major sell-off right now and many people naturally see the bullish scenario flying out the window, but that's wrong. I'm going to explain exactly why to you today. So I'd say let's get started. Just before we really get going, feel free to give this video a thumbs up. Just go right below this video and hit that thumbs up button. That would really support me a lot, and feel free to leave a comment for the algorithm in the comment section below. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. We'll start briefly with the higher level time frame. We're going to be very systematic here. Importantly, in our higher level time frame, everything still looks quite normal. That means, unlike last time when we had a bear trap that I warned you about for weeks, we don't even have a breakout here. To be fair, if we were to break out to the downside in the higher level time frame, which is really important now, meaning we essentially fall back below the $70,000 mark, then it will very likely go down very sharply very soon. That just needs to be communicated very clearly, stating that this would then be the most likely scenario. This means that if we break the $70,000 mark, it will very likely continue to drop very quickly, so everyone should please keep an eye on the $70,000 mark, or rather, keep an eye on the higher level time frame, right? That will obviously be very, very important in this scenario. If we just zoom in a bit to the 1 hour time frame, we can see quite clearly that this pattern I showed you actually did break out to the upside again at the end of the day. I mean, I've shown you several chart formations here, starting from this one to that one, and they all broke out perfectly. And now the market has corrected downwards once again, and we've also broken through this support here. Or rather, it was a previous resistance, then became future support accordingly, and it then continued to pay off positively for us here. So the market went further up accordingly, but then broke through relatively quickly. That was due to a manipulated candle. We have a very strong vector candle here. We have a sell-off candle here filled with a lot of volume, and that was exactly at 3 a.m. German time. And usually we see hardly any movement on Friday evening and very little movement in the market on Saturday. Saturday is usually the weakest day in the market, and then accordingly we usually see the strongest market movement on Sunday morning, afternoon, or evening, typically towards the evening. And that's exactly what's happening now. Of course, we haven't seen the strongest market move yet. In this case, it was this one, but usually it's on Sunday. And before that, liquidity was farmed up here, of course. That means some short traders were liquidated accordingly, and then the market made the short move all by itself without all those short traders. And yeah, it basically had a sell-off from the top to the bottom of 3.4%, which is relatively strong in the current market situation with the low volatility we've seen over the last few weeks of consolidation, especially for a weekend, of course. And many are wondering now, okay, is this the sign that it's going to go down further, or what exactly is this? And I can clearly say, no, this is certainly not the sign that it's going to go down further. In my view, please friends, always take everything with a grain of salt. You see, you can sign up for free on LEVEX using the first link in the video description. You can see exactly what I'm trading. I'm making a huge profit here. I've made quite a bit of profit, really, with very, very small amounts that I trade with here on the stream accounts. I've really taken some profits here. So these here are already well over $1,500 and still going. Unrealized profits too. I've also closed several trades here in the green. So you really have to say the last few weeks have gone very, very well if you just take a look at that. Of course, there's a loss every now and then, that's just part of it, but you can also see the profits here, which are naturally very, very high, right? Yes, even a bigger loss sometimes. But that's then directly offset by wins, of course, but the bottom line is we always make a lot of money here in the streams and also have a, well, above average win rate. And the question now is, of course, what do I personally think will happen here based on technical analysis? And for that, you just have to stick clearly to the basics. We've seen an upward structure here, of course, where the market continued to move higher with higher highs and higher lows. And now a low has been taken out of the market accordingly. But that low isn't necessarily the low that's relevant for the overall structure, but rather this low. And this low was tested. Yes, liquidity was also fished out below it by the wicks, but if it's just a wick, a candle wick that goes below it, then that's something I personally don't really count, or it's not structurally relevant for me, to put it that way. That means, for me, we haven't seen a structurally relevant break here yet that would be relevant to me in any way right now. I mean, of course it's not good, but it's still not a break in structure. So I'm saying the upward movement is still intact. But that's not even what I'm looking at. Why do I say it's going to continue to go up? It's certainly not going to be the case that the market goes back up in a single candle. Even though that can happen, of course, it's not the most likely scenario here. I don't want to keep referring to that one exception, where it worked out, because that doesn't help in the end. We always have to look at what has the highest probability of success. And if I look at one thing, it's the CME, because the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, is very relevant for institutional trading because all the institutional money, or at least a very large part of it, enters the markets through the CME. So that is very, very relevant. And that's why we trade CME gaps, because the CME is just extremely relevant for us as traders and investors, as that's where the institutional money comes in. And consequently, a lot of capital enters that influences the markets. And now let's take a look. We also closed the CME on Friday, which is what happens accordingly. And for example, last Monday, we opened another CME gap here, which will certainly be filled in the coming weeks. But if we take a look, where did we close the whole thing? $73,630. That's where the CME closed. This means we've dropped down now after making a new high here at $73,800. We dropped down once and now have a low of $61,700. And if we consolidate in this phase now, which is not unlikely at all because we don't have that much volume, I'm actually leaning more towards a downward consolidation here where we basically consolidate downwards for a bit and then likely break out to the upside after that. I consider that the most likely scenario, that we won't even have a large drawdown area to the downside. But that's another topic. Only if we end up consolidating here throughout the day and then Monday starts, Monday night or 1 a.m. German time, then the CME opens again. And what happens then? Then we'll have a CME gap above us that's quite relevant, and in this case, it could actually be closed relatively soon. And that means it would pull us right back up and give us the push we need for the coming week to reach our price target of $78,000. Because this CME gap that will likely form here, it would probably look something like this, well, as of right now. Yeah, so it's already a relatively large CME gap. The price would be down here, maybe correct downwards a bit, whatever. Yeah, but it would probably then start to fill this CME gap here. But of course, we have to wait and see how the whole thing closes. In any case, I also said in yesterday's market update that a downward move over the weekend is certainly super bullish for us. Yeah, you should never misinterpret that. A downward move doesn't always mean it's super bearish, and if that happens accordingly, we'll obviously be a bit lower at first. Sure, but we'll likely come back up through the CME gap to then test the much larger and therefore much more relevant CME gap. That's the second largest CME gap ever created, and it sits exactly at a level of $78,000. And I simply believe that we'll test this one and then head into the major correction from there. As I said, that's also the scenario I explained to you yesterday. In the daily market updates, I fit the whole thing, or the current market movements we always have, back into that scenario. That means for me, everything comes back together into this one big scenario that I'm trading. Because I have a clear strategy and a clear plan, I can also trade sustainably and profitably accordingly. What also made me very happy, we also made a gold trade. This is the first time we've traded gold together live here. We took a short position, a relatively large position, a $50,000 trade, and it's now slowly moving into profit. Yeah, with gold, you obviously have some funding fees, which are crappy, of course. But that could change soon, because once the gold market has dropped a bit, the funding fees will flip again, and then you can make a lot of money from that. But basically, we had another great entry point here for gold, and the market is dropping down. To be precise, that wasn't even the entry. It should have been somewhere around here. But the whole thing, where the entry is now, the entry area is definitely a resistance level now, and that's pretty good for us. In the meantime, I've also secured the trade in profit with a stop loss. Yeah, I'd still take a small loss due to trading fees and the funding fees that were incurred accordingly, but that wouldn't be so important. Yeah, in any case, this is another great trade that's also performing well. I'd say we'll see each other tomorrow at 2 p.m. for the live stream. I'll have to see because I'm flying out tomorrow. I'll post an update about that in the Telegram group. Otherwise, my dear friends, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Tomorrow, the stock market opens again. On that note, my friends, we'll see each other. Until then, and bye.